Police have released new CCTV footage of a man believed to be connected to the murder of a man from Lincolnshire. Alan Wood was found dead at his home in Lounge near Bourne in Lincolnshire on October the 24th. The 50-year-old had been stabbed several times. Police have released CCTV footage of a man who it's believed is a suspect in the case trying to withdraw money from Mr Wood's account. This latest footage is of a man walking through Market Place in Bourne on October the 22nd. Next, one family's extraordinary gesture of forgiveness towards the driver responsible for killing their brother.
Yes, Gary Smith died after he was struck by a car as he left work at the Edith Cavell Hospital in Peterborough in July.
The driver, Richard Kilby from Bristol, has admitted causing death by dangerous driving, but his victim's family say they've forgiven him and have even written to the judge on his behalf, as Claire McGlasson reports.
Angela Canham from Peterborough loves everything about Christmas. She's not a religious woman, but she's surprised even herself with her capacity for forgiveness. Forgiveness for the driver who killed her brother. Now she's trying to save him from going to prison.
He looked so remorseful, and he couldn't be any more remorseful than he looked. In fact, bless him, he looked to shell it, is the only way I could explain it. And I just thought, I don't think it's going to do him any good.
Gary Smith worked as a hospital porter here at the Edith Cavell Hospital in Peterborough. On the 31st of July, after he'd finished a shift, he was crossing the car park heading towards home when he was struck by a Subaru Impreza driven by Richard Kilby. At Peterborough Crown Court, Kilby pleaded guilty to causing death by dangerous driving. Both Angela and her brother Colin went to face him in court, but both decided to write to the judge, urging him not to send Kilby to prison when he's sentenced in January.
We've sat as a family, and thought about this, and why shouldn't I? For my own peace of mind, why shouldn't I forgive that chap for what he done?
We're not saying we want him to get away with it whatsoever. He could do good in the community.
Colin and Angela have received a letter from Kilby. They say they'll keep in touch if it helps him to cope with jail, but they hope it won't come to that. They don't want their brother's death to wreck any more lives. Claire McGlasson, Anglia News, Peterborough.
You're watching Anglia Tonight. It's good to have you with us.
Here's what's still to come. Now, more news from closer to home. Campaigners against a second runway at Stansted have welcomed a report by MPs saying it should be built at Gatwick instead.
It's the latest blow to plans for a second runway at our region's biggest airport, as Tom Barton reports.
It's a report by a group of senior MPs looking at the future of air travel in the UK, and it makes one recommendation which will make waves in our region. The Transport Select Committee says it's not convinced that a national case for an additional runway at Stansted Airport has been made.
We felt that the evidence we had didn't show very strong support for an additional runway at Stansted, and the current situation is that the public inquiry into that possibility has been put on hold.
This opposition from the Transport Select Committee is the latest blow for plans for a second runway at Stansted. The Conservative Party have said that if they win the next general election, they would scrap the idea. And a public inquiry has been put on hold, while the future of the airport's owner is decided by the Competition Commission.
The government and BAA are increasingly isolated in favouring a second runway at Stansted. It only remains to be seen how long they can withstand the pressure to withdraw the plans altogether.
Do you think this second runway will actually ever be built?
This community has fought against second runway proposals for over 40 years. We'll fight for as long as it takes, and we believe that we will ultimately win the day.
The Select Committee says it thinks Gatwick Airport would be a better location than Stansted for any new runway.
While campaigners claim that today's report shows that support for expansion here at Stansted is slipping, the airport's operators, BAA, point out that a second runway here remains government policy.
And until that policy changes, BAA says it will keep on fighting to get plans for Stansted's second runway off the ground. This argument still isn't over. Tom Barton, Anglia News at Stansted Airport.
Essex firefighters are to extend their industrial action in a battle to reverse budget cuts as managers admit negotiations are going nowhere. Budget cuts mean some frontline services are to be cut, with changes to how special appliances like aerial platforms are crewed. In response, fire crews are now refusing contracts and additional work agreements that don't conform to national conditions of service.
A supply teacher at a school in Suffolk who was filmed stripping off his shirt in front of a class has been found guilty of misconduct. A pupil filmed Martin Rouse taking off his shirt in June 2008 at Sudbury Upper School and put the footage on YouTube. The General Teaching Council issued a reprimand for what it called an ill-considered attempt to control a class and put Rouse on their register for 2 years. He can carry on teaching, although not in Suffolk.
Military families from across the region have been recording special Christmas messages for troops serving in Afghanistan. They gathered in Norwich at the weekend to record the television messages to be sent out to the Royal Anglian Regiment. ITV Anglia has joined up with British Forces Broadcasting Service to deliver the festive greetings.
Well, some sport now, and an important week for our struggling championship rivals, Ipswich Town and Peterborough United.
Both face each other tomorrow night. Meanwhile, the teams bidding to replace them, Norwich and Colchester, both won again in League One. Donovan Blake has more.
Their teams are a point better off at the wrong end of the championship, but are Roy Keane and Mark Cooper both fighting losing battles to stay up? Their tally of points overall is the big statistic, with nearly half a season gone and both still in the drop zone. Just 17 for Town, with Posh 4 points less at the bottom. Compare their stats with those who lost their championship status at the same stage last season, including Norwich. They and Southampton both had more points. Mind you, Doncaster and Nottingham Forest had less than Ipswich, and Forest the same as Posh. Both survived. TV highlights didn't do justice to Ipswich's performance at Bristol City. They created 21 chances, but former Ipswich striker Danny Haynes almost won it for the home side, hitting the woodwork twice.
Well, I was fast asleep by then, so that programme's on far too late anyway. No, we know ourselves. It's not about what message gets sent out to the rest of the country. We know ourselves as a group, amongst the players and the staff, and obviously the supporters that were there Saturday, that we should have won the game, but we didn't.
Peterborough were able to take 2 of their opportunities against Swansea, but they conceded twice and looked to be staring at a 4th defeat in 5 games when Lee Trundle scored in stoppage time, only for Aaron McLean to salvage a point. Norwich's hopes of a swift return to the Championship may depend on the form of both Grant Holt and Wes Houlihan. They've scored 30 goals between them after both were on target against Oldham. Not surprisingly, manager Paul Lambert says they're going nowhere. City say 2 points ahead of Colchester, who have another player on a reasonably hot streak, Kevin Lisby. His winning goal against Bristol Rovers was his 10th on loan for Ipswich. No wonder Adi Boothroyd wants to keep him. But Southend's promotion hopes appear to be waning at the moment. They were beaten by a single goal at Charlton, their 4th defeat in 5 league games. Donovan Blake, Anglia News.
Now, if you were watching our programme just over a week ago, you'll have heard about an unprecedented search party for a missing dog in Milton Keynes. When this rather nervous 3-year-old Cocker Spaniel called Lady disappeared less than 24 hours after being rehomed in the town, hundreds of volunteers set about searching for her in nearby woodland. And you'd be very glad to know that after more than 3 weeks of looking, Lady has been found safe and well.
We're walking with our mate safe.